I Hate Politics is a podcast about a human activity we love to hate. And this is the I Hate Politics candidate interview with Lesley Lopez for Congress in Maryland's 6th District. I'm Sunil Dasgupta, host of I Hate Politics, a podcast about our neighborhoods, workplaces, schools, and streets, and our local governments as they function in diverse, democratic, and sometimes divided societies. As part of the show, we have conversations with local, state, and sometimes federal candidates. Rather than ask how they stand on a multitude of issues, these conversations go in depth on a few issues and reveal the character of the candidates. Mail-in ballots for the upcoming May 14th primary are out. Early voting starts May 2nd. There are 3 congressional districts in Maryland where incumbents are not running. District 2 up by Baltimore, District 3 that centers around Howard and Anne Arundel County, and District 6, which starts in Montgomery and goes all the way to the mountains of western Maryland. The primary election for Maryland's 6th District has a crowded field. Among the leading candidates is Lesley Lopez, a 2-term state delegate for Montgomery County's District 39. You can find interviews with other candidates in the I Hate Politics library, available on all major streaming platforms. Music for this episode are 2 short piano pieces from Kensington resident Adam Bobrow. If you want to share your music on the show or know someone else who might want to, please email us at producer@ihppod.org. Lesley Lopez, welcome to I Hate Politics.
Thank you. Excited to be here with you today.
You are running in Maryland's 6th District for Congress, and you wanted to talk about your work in abortion, but what is a policy problem that we are facing right now?
Roe v. Wade was a Supreme Court decision that said that abortion is constitutionally protected. And then when the Dobbs decision came in, that was about saying, well, there's actually no reference to abortion in the Constitution. And what we have seen after that is states coming up with a patchwork of reproductive care protections, or in many cases, bans. 21 states have enacted some type of ban. As of this past week, we have 16 states that have fully enacted a ban. 1/3 of the women that live in this country live in one of those states. And for Maryland, this is really important because we are, now with Florida, we're the last southern state that has any type of protected right.
So speak a little bit about what Maryland has done to protect abortion rights within the state.
Sure. So our state codified Roe v. Wade in the 90s. So that is our baseline of protection. What we want to do is amend our constitution so it's a part of our state constitution. And that will happen next November with the ballot initiative. The things that we have done in recent history that I'm really proud of being a part of is expanding the number of practitioners who can provide abortion care in our state. And then I was elected Women's Caucus president, and the Women's Caucus had not taken a position on choice for 40 years. It was just decided that it was too not even partisan, because there were a lot more pro-life Democrats when the Women's Caucus began. Now I think there's only 2 in our caucus. And so it was just decided that was not an issue that we were gonna take on. But then the Dobbs decision happened, and it really felt like, who are we as a women's organization if we're not going to take this issue on?
You said that some states were trying or had established already the 6-week ban, the heartbeat ban. What states are these?
Well, the one that I would mention that's most newsworthy is Florida. And Florida just signed it within the past week, I believe. I think Governor DeSantis signed it, I want to say maybe the 12th, so just a few days ago. And before, Florida already had a restrictive law. They had 15 weeks.
Right, but what other states has the 6 weeks heartbeat ban? Do you know?
I'd have to look it up for you. I don't have it aggregated in my brain that way. But there's quite a number of states. I think Georgia also has a 6-week ban, but they're slightly less restrictive than Florida because you can do a telehealth meeting. So you don't have to make the trek into a doctor's office to do the whole thing.
What does the telehealth meeting do?
So telehealth is, as opposed to going to a doctor, going through an examination, taking a pregnancy test, and then saying, okay, here's the abortion procedure, whether it's mifepristone or whether the actual procedure. A telehealth says, okay, you've taken a pregnancy test, you're pregnant, you're 5 weeks pregnant, we can send you the medication.
Okay, let's talk about the medication abortion. It turns out that a significant number of abortions that are conducted use the abortion pill. Do you know what the division is between actual surgical abortion and pill abortion?
So the latest information that I have seen says that 6 out of every 10 pregnancy terminations are through medical abortion and not the actual procedure that's done in office.
What is this? Is that the same percentage in Maryland, or in Maryland has different percentages?
I haven't seen numbers separate for our state, but I would say from my talking to clinicians and the people who are the policy experts, it seems like our state is in line. We're not an outlier from that number.
Are any other states outliers? I mean, could it be that some states have 80% pill? Could some states be 80% surgical? Is that a possibility?
I suppose it's possible. I guess it has to do with, can you do it with telehealth or not, right? Like if you're going into an office for the full test, you probably I would guess that your likelihood to have an in-office procedure would go up because you're accustomed to going into an office.
But it could very well be that you go in to the office and then get the pill.
Yeah, I mean, 60% of the time, something like that happens.
What is the issue with the pill?
Opponents go after it just because that it's convenient and proven. The major pushback to the abortion pill comes by way of the Comstock Act, which is this very old esoteric bill. I think it's from like the and basically it regulates what can be mailed. Mifepristone, taking some type of medication via having it mailed to you. That's the crux of their argument. That's how they're trying to restrict access, is by invoking the Comstock Act.
So why is that not applicable in Maryland?
I guess because we just have other ways of accessing help.
No, but if the issue is mailing of a drug, then why does that not apply to Maryland? Why does it only apply to states that are, anti-abortion?
A federal law has to be applied everywhere.
That's right.
Correct? But I think there's a matter of enforcement.
And why should it be that Arizona can threaten to use Comstock and it not apply to Maryland? What is the difference?
Yeah, we must have some type of protection in place.
Is the abortion pill covered by insurance?
Yes, I believe so. As of the 2022 bill, we have said that if you are receiving some type of abortion coverage, there's no copay or cost share or anything like that if you're using Medicaid, right? So it's protected there. If you are using a health insurance carrier that is regulated through our state benefits, so an ERISA plan is what they're called, then you will have coverage. However, if you have a private insurer through your employer, those state protections don't apply.
So it only applies to insurance plans over which the state has control. It does not apply to private plans. Is there a Maryland law that can be written to allow that to happen?
Well, this is a federal preemption thing. And I say this as someone on health and government operations who gets very frustrated sometimes because we want to enact change that can impact people more broadly. But ultimately, the state legislature only has control over those state regulated plans, like the plans that are on the exchanges. And so, for example, as Women's Caucus president last year, we worked to end copays on mammograms. But the only insurance carriers we could regulate and enforce that were with the state exchange ones.
Well, that's interesting because insurance is a state subject.
It is. However, there are limitations to it, and unfortunately, this seems to be one of them.
Or what is the argument that says that the state cannot regulate health plans in the state?
I think one of the issues is that many health insurance carriers cover multiple states.
But those plans are written specifically almost state by state.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you what their arguments are because I think whatever they might be would be dumb.
They're clearly not that dumb because you're not acting on it. Because you are not actually being able, you think you're constrained from passing state law based on those prohibitions. If they are totally dumb, then that doesn't compute, right? You're obviously paying attention to them.
Yeah, I mean, when I say I think they're dumb, I think they are.
What I want to understand is what is preventing states that want to make a difference. So, for example, let's take an example. So, say Alabama or Arizona, right? They say insurance carriers operating in the state, subject to our law, cannot offer the abortion pill. And Maryland does the opposite, which says insurance carriers must offer the abortion pill as a benefit for health plans being offered in the state. How do we resolve that?
I don't think the southern states would draft it as a regulation on insurance. I think they would draft it as a prohibition on providers and say providers cannot prescribe this type of medication.
But why? What is that difference? Why not regulate the insurance company over this?
I mean, I wouldn't be able to tell you precisely, but I think from a lawmaker's perspective, I think their approach will be to limit what doctors can do or what clinicians can do within their scope of work, right? Because those are the tools that are available. To say we're going to start regulating insurance companies in a different way that's a different type of bill, and that goes after an industry versus when you're just going after.
But we regulate all kinds of industries, right? So, I mean, the question really is it because insurance lobbying, or is there some real legal impediment?
Well, I think there probably are legal impediments, but those are the result of the insurance lobby.
Do we know for certain? I mean, is this something that you would go after should you be elected?
I think that the insurance lobby, particularly health insurance, is very powerful. And
in this instance, in the case of the abortion pill and health plan coverage of that abortion pill, what is stopping a state like Maryland from mandating that insurance plans offered within the state, including those that are privately offered, must cover the abortion pill?
Well, again, we can do that as long as the insurance carrier is within our purview of something we can regulate. But any insurance.
But do you feel that insurance plans offered in the state of Maryland are not regulatable by the state?
It's not whether I feel it; they just aren't. Like unless you are a state exchange insurance carrier, we can't regulate you. It's just how it is. I'd have to figure out like where in our code that's where the limitations are, but that's just, that's what we're working with.
Okay. Do you have a sense of how abortion demand is distributed in the state of Maryland?
I think there is consistent demand in all clinical operations. However, because West Virginia has no practitioners, no providers because of their ban, the numbers are increasing in Hagerstown and in Allegheny County.
That's the district you're running for Congress, Maryland District 6. What more is necessary at this point in those areas?
In a very immediate sense, there needs to be security and protections, specifically around the clinic in Hagerstown. Because I was just up there last week. It opens right out to the sidewalk. There's no physical barrier there. Protesters can, we have, certain codes around how far protesters can get and those types of things and protections. You can't obscure someone's access, but ultimately it's a First Amendment right that people have to protest things. But we've seen both in our state and nationally, huge upticks in the rate of stalking clinical workers, in arson, in attacks on the facilities and things like that. And
this is not in Maryland, right? You're talking nationally now.
Nationally, yeah. But when it comes to,
and it could be in the states that are the most opposed to abortion. It's not maybe in states such as Maryland, right?
Well, I think in the more rural areas, in red areas,
is there data showing that?
I want to make sure that people are telling their own stories, and I'm not, sharing things. But I think people who are working in abortion clinics in red areas, be it a red state or a red region, a part of a blue state, a red portion of a blue state like Maryland, still feel that tension, right? The difference between how you might feel as a clinician in Rockville or College Park is probably a little bit more safe than how you might feel in Allegheny County.
Okay, so security is a big need. What else?
Yeah. The other thing is just generally access, because we're seeing an increase in people needing care, including people from other states as well. So abortion is the one form of healthcare where there are no public health grants available for it. And that originates from the HIDE Act.
States could have public health grants themselves.
It's possible, but again, a lot of that money originates at the federal level.
So you want more security and more providers in Western Maryland? Is that?
I think providers are a good first step. We've already laid the foundation for that with the bill that we passed in 2022. But it's really access in terms of being able to pay for this service. Even if you have insurance, you might want to pay for having this procedure done outside of using your insurance. And an example I would give is if you're in an abusive relationship and you have an explanation of benefits mailed to your home, that could be very problematic for you. And so how to pay for these services, how to pay for, if you're traveling to a clinic and you need a hotel, or if you need, the bus fare there, or if there's other costs associated with the procedure outside of just the procedure itself.
One of the toughest things government has to do is to target that kind of resources to the very, very specific person, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody within an abusive relationship needing an abortion. It's so targeted. How can the government even reasonably know? And if it does, then the information is out. So, is there other ways to organize this?
Yeah, I think this is where we partner with nonprofits that would be under the bill that I was proposing. It would be grants available to certain clinics who can decide how those funds need to be spent.
What happened to the bill?
The bill died. We had indications that it was likely it would be moving in both the House and the Senate, but I think, it just was a bit of a heavy lift for this session.
Why?
It's a first in the nation attempt to do this. There's been other states right after the Dobbs decision that have used general funds, like New York used general funds to kind of cover whatever increase they might see. But those are temporary. And this was the first in the nation approach to a sustainable abortion grant fund.
Why should this be so difficult in a Democratic House, in a Democratic Senate, with a Democratic governor? What do you think is going on?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. We've got super majorities, we've got a Democratic governor, and also politically, outside of just the policy being good, politically it's the right thing to do. We know that every time there's been a special election or a regularly planned election since the Dobbs decision, it's people have been voting on abortion and making sure it's protected. And we're so confident in this state that our voters support abortion that it's even a constitutional amendment.
It is kind of confusing to see that the Democratic leadership in the state is pushing for a constitutional amendment, but not supporting the issue of access. So this distinction between rights and access is kind of pretty stark. How do you bring that together?
Yeah. Well, I can't speak on behalf of leadership. So I don't know I can't say that they don't support access. Sometimes bills just take a while to get through. In Annapolis, there's
but why?
The adage in Annapolis, it takes 3 years to get a good bill through, right? In other states and in Congress, it takes 10 years, it takes 20 years.
Now, most Democrats are similar, if not the same, on the issue of abortion. They support it. They want constitutional amendment. They want rights. They want access. Why does this differentiate you from the other people running in the Democratic primary in May 2024?
I think the difference on this issue and many other ones is that I'm not talking from a place of aspiration. I'm talking from a place of accomplishments. I have been in the room when it happened, when these decisions were being made and when these conversations were had. And I used the influence I had as Women's Caucus president, to put pressure on folks and to amplify how important this issue is, not just for the women in the state, but the women regionally. And, I think when you're running for Congress, particularly in this district and in this era, this really isn't a place for on-the-job learning. You need to show up ready to throw a punch and take a punch and be as bipartisan as you can in the process, because that's just a function of being successful in this position.
Who do you want to be bipartisan with on the issue of abortion in Congress right now?
We're not seeing any Republicans be very vocal about being pro-choice in the House, but that doesn't mean that they're not there.
Lesley Lopez, thank you for taking the time. Good luck in the campaign.
Thank you.
That's Maryland State Delegate Lesley Lopez, who is running for Congress in Maryland's 6th District, which goes from Montgomery County in the south all the way to the mountains of Western Maryland. You can find her at lopezformaryland.com. Music for this episode comes from Kensington resident Adam Bobrow. If you want to share your music on the show or know someone else who might want to, please email us at producer@ihbpod.org. I hope you'll listen, like, and share the show as we bring you stories about politics close to you and to your home. Mail-in ballots are out. Early voting starts May 2nd. Primary day is May 14th. See you next time.